Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Aces53, normally with Ed Parco and myself, but Ed is out on vacation this week. He is off hiking in the great wilderness, so you just get to put up with me, myself, and I. So that means I'm going to be heavily distracted today because I'll be running the PowerPoint, checking the live on Instagram, and then showing you other stuff as well. So we'll be playing with a little bit of fun stuff back and forth. But for anybody who hasn't been here before, normally on Tuesdays, it's Ed Parco and myself. So Ed's based in California in Modesto. And what we talk about, Aces53, what does Aces stand for? Attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile, which I definitely don't do enough of when I'm on stage. However, since it's just me this week, now I'm still working to have a joker on Thursday, but since it's just me today, I thought, well, I'm going to walk you guys through the last talk I gave at Secret Knock the other day, because it's becoming more and more apparent that if you do not work on your people skills, you will not be doing well in the future. So whereas a year ago, it was, hey, if you don't start using AI, you'll be replaced by somebody who does. Everybody's using AI. I mean, the amount of people who don't use it in some form or fashion is so minuscule that it's not out there. So what I'm going to talk about today is what I think is a different version of AI that's important. And we'll be getting to that here in a second. But as I mentioned, 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. That's when we're here on Tuesdays. It's just Ed and I. Then on Thursdays, we bring in a special guest or joker. So what we'll end up doing now is, if I can get this to work, is we're going to go over my last presentation. Yes, you know that guy right there. But what I'm trying to do is to get just one thing to show up. Let me see if I can get it. Boom. To show. There we go. All right. So what we want to talk about is this was the talk I gave at the last event at Secret Knock, and it is not letting me go to the next screen. So hold on one second. I may have to share a different screen. So let me stop sharing that one. Let me present. I want to share a screen. That's weird. It shut down. Okay. We are going to share that one and see if it will work. So we'll try this again. All right, so let's see if we go. Will it change accordingly? It will not. This is all the fun stuff with technology. Hold the horses. All right. So we want here. Why is it not swapping? Hold on one second. This isn't embarrassing at all. Let's try this one more time. So it's moving for y'all, but it's not moving for me. Where is it going to go? All right, we're going to stop this one for a second. Let me see if I can get it working one more time. Why is it going there? Let me do swap displays and try it that way. Okay, we're going to move over one other thing. Shrink this one down so I can see y'all. Breaking all my own rules here. All right, let me move you back to here. See if I can move things. It's going to make it a little bit smaller. Work with me. Thank you for your patience, everyone. All right, so we're going to come in there. We're going to make this one a little bit there. Okay, so the downside is, while I have this, I won't have the ability to. There we go. Make myself a little bit smaller. So for you guys who don't know me, I'm Brian Galke, the Decoding Detective. And what we're going to be taking a look at today is what I think is going to be more important going into things with the future. So, and that is, what's an unfair advantage that really helped me out in life, that it was just a combination of, it was my work life, my personal life, yes, even my love life when it went to dating and other things. So what changed everything for me was obviously learning how to understand people based on their facial features. If you haven't heard my story, I met my mentor back in 2010. Guy completely changed my life. And what I mean by that is, he was an attorney who learned it for jury consulting. He realized that it had more applications than just working inside the courtroom. So I apologize if you're on Instagram. I can't see the comments because I don't have enough monitors to do it. But anyway, so I'll take a look at those comments here in a second. But what happened is he learned to take it outside the courtroom, how to put it into practice in the real world. I was lucky enough to meet him in 2011. I still carry a copy of my old book right here that you can see called Amazing Face Reading. The newer version is called The Power of Face Reading. And this book changed my life. Why? Because once I learned to focus on other people, I learned to get out of my own damn way. And what it really has helped me with was I'm an introvert by nature. But once I learned to focus on other people, you get out of the prison of your own mind and you get into the present moment. And that's what really changed things for me. But what we've been talking about for the last 2 years now is the importance of AI. And AI is absolutely everywhere. It's not going away. What are people using AI for? Well, they're using it basically to create new content. They're using it to save money. And how do you save money? Well, you basically get rid of the human aspect. What are things that I was paying someone to do before that I don't have to do that anymore? And that's one of the things that's a little bit scary is if I'm doing that to cut somebody out, so now I don't have to pay a video editor because I use Opus Clips. Well, it's the same thing here, where now somebody may be using AI to replace me in some form or fashion. And so it's a little bit scary when you look at it from that way. But what ends up happening is people end up using AI the same way, which is it's just a copy of a copy, meaning that they're going into ChatGPT, they're not personalizing the information. They'll just say, go write me content for this. Well, we can tell who's copying and pasting. And back during the pandemic was, I hope this email finds you well. So we knew immediately that was ChatGPT generated, what was going to be done. So what we're looking at is how can things help you over time? Now, I believe there's two different versions of AI that are vastly important. The first one is you have to already be interesting. And what do I mean by that is that means when somebody goes to look you up after they meet you, they get your business card, they find you on social media, they meet you in person. What are they going to go and find? When they go Google you, when they look you up on social media, what's already going to be there to keep them interested in wanting to follow up with you? Now, that can be personally, professionally, buy your products, go into your business. You have to already be interesting. You need to have so much information out there that they can go search on all the different platforms and they can find you in some form or fashion. And I apologize. This is going to jump slides a little bit because originally this was going to be automated when I was on stage. So I'm having to stop the scroll when it happens. What does that come out to? How do you stop the scroll? That was no pun intended since I just said that, but it's basically what's going to keep people on your website. If they're on your social media, why are they going to stick with you versus going on to the very next version of the video that's out there? Why should they not move to somebody else? And you have to keep creating new content to do that. Because if you go with the same old information that worked before, what's going to happen is people go, and move on. What you want is create those hooks, those things that keep people on there. They have a fear of missing out. They need to watch the entire video to find out what the hell are you talking about? Or you have to leave a little bit of mystique as to why they should keep following you. What are they going to miss out if they move on to that next person's social media? And that's a big question that's there right now. Next part over is what are you doing to stand out? So for me personally, it's videos. The thing that stands out is I have a unique skill that was taught to me. So that is, I was taught how to decode people by their facial features. I'm also trained in body language, statement analysis, several other things. But what stands out is I'm one of the few people who can read faces. Yes, it's called face reading. I don't like calling it face reading because it's automatically discounted that way. But that's really what decoding facial features is. It's just a different way to say it to get past the mystique that's on it. And then, of course, are you attracting your ideal client when you're doing it? That's one of the other big questions is what are you doing to put out there that really pulls them in and makes them want to follow you, take your courses, come watch you speak, whatever it is you do for a living. Let's say you do plumbing. When they go and they research you, what is going to keep you or keep them on your page versus them going and researching the next person in line or moving on to the next website, you name it. It's all those little things that are there. So then what else is, what are you doing? Well, for me, I'm going and constantly putting out video, but depending on the platform, you don't want it to just be video. You don't want to just be video. You want it to be a combination of things. You want it to be video plus posts plus pictures. You have to be constantly rotating it, especially because the algorithms keep changing. So like I did a video earlier this week. It's already got 24,000 views, which most of mine hit like 1.5. So I wanted to boost that one. Well, now Instagram is set up that you can't boost it unless it's over 90 seconds. Well, that was a change because a couple months ago, they wanted shorts to be under 60 seconds. So it's kind of interesting what's going on kind of behind the scenes with everything. And then, of course, testimonials. Why? We always trust third party more than we do if somebody's up and talking. So any chance you get for your business or anything where people can give you testimonials goes a very, very long way. Because if I talk about how cool I am, it's bragging. If somebody else talks about how cool you are, it's a testimonial. It's a referral. We trust those. It's the whole reason why when we go log into Amazon, we go and look at how many stars does it have, and we may read a few reviews just for that very reason. So next one over, it's okay to copy people who are successful at things, but you want to be a little bit different. So the same, but different. If you haven't seen that movie, copy what's working, because for that very reason, it's working. But personalize it and make it your own. There's nothing wrong with trying what's working for other people, but if everybody's doing the same thing, you don't stand out, and you're right back to the original problem that we had. The second one, and this one's more in my area of expertise, and that is you have to be actually interested in other people. There are far too many people who just want to get up and give a presentation and pitch their product instead of figuring out, how can I help these other people? Are they the right people for my product? There's a lot of sales trainers who are out there who just bully people in, keep talking, no matter what their objection is, agree and still ask them for a credit card. I think that's going away more and more. And you can see it because if you follow things, what happens is a lot of people sign up for a lot of programs, and then there's a lot of negative press out there because people feel like they were pushed or forced into something. And that will eventually come back to bite you in the butt. So I believe you have to actually be interested in other people instead of just pushing your product. Nobody likes commission breath. What people want is they want to know that you're making about them and that you have their best interest at heart. We talked before, commission breath is a repellent. Neediness is a repellent. I don't care if you're talking about going on dates. I don't care if you're talking about buying a product. It's a repellent. When people know that you're there just to make money instead of help them, they will run from you as a business. So what they really want to know is, hey, do you care about me as a person? I want a conversation, not a presentation. And then can you help me solve my pain? Can you help me get to the next level in my business? If people are just relying on AI, or take that away, people who just want to text and email and not call customers, not send customers videos, not pick up the phone, not get in a room with a customer, AI will kick your butt everywhere you go. Why? It doesn't need sleep. It doesn't need bathroom breaks. It doesn't need coffee. It can work 24 hours a day. It can have conversations. So if you're relying on just text messaging and emails to work with your clients and people, you can be replaced by AI. People want to know what's their win, what's the result. I'm horrible about this. I always talk about decoding facial features, but I don't talk about what's their win in learning it. So people see it as like a cool parlor trick, but they don't understand the power of what it can help them accomplish. So you'll be seeing my own website change to reflect that, because I wasn't making it about their win. I was talking about my service. And that's doing yourself a disservice. And I say that from personal experience. A lot of people think it's cool, but people aren't learning this invaluable skill, and it drives me nuts. And the reason why is I wasn't putting the right kind of message out there. So next one over, there's 4 basic human needs. People want to feel seen and heard. They want to feel connected. And that's what is most important. That's why you need to get in rooms with people. I don't even care if you're getting on Zoom. If you get on Zoom, don't do this. Don't block your camera, right? That doesn't do you a service. So what people want is people want to see you. That's why if you're communicating with a customer, send a video when you can, because then they're hearing you say the words versus them reading the words in a text or an email based on the mood that they're in at the exact same time. So I'm a huge fan of doing videos out there. When you get in the rooms, that's how you build connection with other people. And that's what people are starved for, because people spend so much time on this device. We think we're checking in on our friends by checking social media, but we're not. We're not having conversations. We don't know how people are really doing. We see a happy photo that they may have posted after they may have had a shit week where they're nearly in tears, but they want to put something positive out because they think that's what everybody's supposed to do, because we're not told to share our shit. What's our shit? It's the bad stuff that's going on in our life at the same time. Then, what really changed things for me is once I learned to focus on other people, I learned to achieve more. And it's kind of like the person here, where you look at the person on the left, when they're making it all about them and their presentation, the audience is already checked out. But when you learn to focus on other people and have those conversations and you give them your time and attention, that's when people learn to give their time and attention back at the exact same time. So what do I talk about? How to decode people based on their facial features. Very first book on this was written by Aristotle. It's been studied since that time. It's the art of understanding other people based on the 43 muscles in the face. Now, those muscles are constantly moving just like every other muscle in our body, and it changes things. So over time, our faces are constantly changing. And people get confused about this a lot because they're like, oh, I'm just what I inherited genetically. And that's true until the moment you're born. Then something known as epigenetics comes into play. And that is, how does the outside world impact you down to a DNA level? And so I like to say the mind creates movement, movement creates muscle. We have thoughts, we make different faces. And as we use those muscles over and over again, they change with time. Really crazy part for me was it wasn't until Henry VIII that was actually here. This was taught in English universities. And Henry VIII said, I don't like the idea that beggars and vagabonds can use this against their fellow man. And he had it yanked out, which is kind of crazy. But if not, we would all be taught this. And where was it still learned? Well, it was still learned by authors and artists. Why authors? Because they had to learn to describe characters in their books. And same thing, artists had to draw pictures based on an author's comments. So we've been trained our entire life. We just haven't been formally trained in it. Then how do I usually end presentations? Is I bring people up on stage. Why? I want people to see this in practice. Anybody can tell you anything on a PowerPoint and make it seem like it works. But the way I end all my talks is I bring people up on stage, or I'll say, hey, I'll be located at this area at the event. Come by and see me. And they always come up just like you see the people over here, where they come out stoic, but they leave smiling. And that goes back to that. Everybody wants to feel seen and heard. And when the other reason I do this is I want to reinforce the skill so people start doing it. So when we bring somebody up, we'll say, all right, their eyebrows high or are they low? What shape are they? And the audience starts responding, and that's ingraining it into their brain at the exact same time. So I do like to talk about eyebrows. If you don't think eyebrows are important, go and Google people without eyebrows. This is the first picture you'll see. Celebrities we've known our entire life, but you take away those features and they look like completely different people. Look, growing up, I watch Nicolas Cage movies. I don't feel like I know who he is when I watch this. Angelina Jolie, I used to think she was hot. Without eyebrows, she is not. And people used to complain about, oh my God, that's a horrible thing to see. How could you leave us there? So I love this one. All parents did was draw different eyebrows on the kids, and it changes how we see the kids. And if you still don't think that's important, look here. We took away one feature from the person, and we feel like we don't know how to talk to the person on the right versus the person on the left. So it's crazy why we do it. But the real reason I teach it is because eyebrows lead to eye contact, and that's a lost art this day and age. This device takes us away from each other. It digitally connects us to the rest of the world, but it disconnects us from each other. There was a study, intelligent.com did a study for December 2023, and 53% of the new applicants out of college couldn't make eye contact during an interview. Then 23% did this, turned off their camera for a virtual interview. So people are struggling and need to focus on soft skills, people skills now more than ever. And that's because knowledge is no longer power. Thanks to AI, we have access to so much more information that people used to have to spend years and days and, in studying. And now you can get answers in minutes and seconds. And that's the thing. Yes, there will still always be engineers, doctors, attorneys, and things. But a lot of jobs will have lower pay over time because then the same level of skill isn't required. AI can do so much of it. I constantly reference, I have two sisters, they're graphic artists. Thank goodness that they are established in their career and they do more than that. Because guess what ChatGPT just did the other day? Now you can create logos and you just need somebody to fine tune it versus create it, which means even if they have those jobs, they won't have as many of those jobs. So I'm a fan of comedies. I like highbrow humor, lowbrow humor. Highbrow humor is when they tell you a joke and you laugh. Lowbrow humor is Jackass and Three Stooges, where you laugh immediately. So when you see somebody with higher eyebrows, it's like putting a speed bump in the middle of the road. They can only go so fast. They have to go over the speed bump and then go back in. So if you picture everybody's forehead as data racing down to get into their eye, the higher the eyebrow, it can only go so fast, go over, and then come in. So those are people who need a little more time to make a decision versus people like here who make decisions very fast. So that's like putting a speed bump right here by my eye. Data can race down. I don't have to slow down at the very end. When people ask about this, it has nothing to do with intelligence, right? This person isn't any smarter or dumber than this person. It's just gut feel. People with higher eyebrows need a little more time before they pull the trigger. If you force someone to make a fast decision and they have a high eyebrow, they're going to get frustrated. They're going to get buyer's remorse, and they're going to either back out of the deal or they're going to write you a bad review, but you'll definitely never get a referral. On the opposite side of that, somebody whose eyebrows are low, they like you to get to the point fast. So if I have 30 minutes on somebody's calendar and their eyebrows low, I better get to the point in 5 minutes. The longer I talk, the more I lose them. The higher eyebrow, I know I'm going to spend a little more time there. I'm going to add in some extra slides. So you can learn to personalize your presentations for the person instead of just showing up and pitching your product the way that you want to be talked about. So it just changes how you meet with people over time. So when you start looking at people, this is a good example, like the person with the highest eyebrows is number 4 here. So I'd give her more time. Number 3 is in there close to, but 1, 2, and 5, those people make decisions fairly quick. Now, the next part I love is the shape of some of these eyebrows tells you how do they take in and process information. And guess what? Even Legos knows that there's 3 basic eyebrows. So when you look at this, you can see there's a straight eyebrow, there's an angled eyebrow, and there's a rounded eyebrow. And we all play the game, put the right peg in the right hole. And when you look at people, what that does is you just figure out straight, angled, or rounded. Here's how you're going to present the information. So when people have straight eyebrows, it gets straight to the point. Facts, figures, data. Look what they did to the character Spock. You know that that's not what he looks like in real life, but they gave him straight eyebrows just like this. And what is Spock known for? Logic, data. So just think straight eyebrows, get straight to the point. Angled eyebrows, what's my angle? Help me understand it. Ruth Ginsburg wanted to help women, but she had to learn the material first. If you should ever come to a full presentation, you'll see a picture of me as a young kid, and I used to have straight eyebrows. But once I became a corporate trainer, they slowly became angled over time. Why? Because I had to learn the material first, what's in it for me, then I could teach it to other people over time. So that's what I mean. Our faces are constantly changing all the time. And then the third basic one is rounded eyebrow people. Think about the people around them first. Regardless of what you think about Oprah, just listen to me for this one part. Why did we watch the show? We watched the show because we wanted to know who was she going to interview and what was she going to give her audience. So even though it was called Oprah, we didn't turn on for her. It was the other people on the show. And then down below, just drew a blank on what her name is, but Mother Teresa. Look, this is a statue of her out of Poland. Look how rounded the eyebrows are. So it's somebody, when you see people with rounded eyebrows, they think about the people around them first and themselves second. It's the entire reason why, if you've ever been on a plane, if you heard in the event of an emergency, please put on your own mask before the mask of others, that's for rounded eyebrow people, because they'd want to help everybody else, even to their own demise. So then here, if you're doing a recap, you just look at people and you think, okay, what type of eyebrows do they have? Straight eyebrows, give them bullet points. Facts, figures, data, keep it short. Angled eyebrows, like I have, help them learn what's their angle. Then they can figure out what to do with the information. And if they have rounded eyebrows, help them help other people. So don't talk about how they benefit first. Talk about their friends, their family, their coworkers, you name it. That's how these 3 types of eyebrows process things. Now, people may ask, what if I have different eyebrows? That's going to be a whole other session we can talk about another day. But this is how easy it is to understand people and start thinking, I know what I want to say, but how do I speak their language? Then you start looking at people. I love this one because nobody really catches it at first. But the first person here, look, his eyebrows match his eyeglasses. So high, rounded, low and straight. You just start looking at people. She's got a rounded one at home. So this is the personal side, angled one on this side, and then angled and angled. So I would talk to all 5 of these people and present the information differently. But even in a group, I know what points to make eye contact with that person and let them know, hey, I'm speaking your language at this particular point in the presentation. And that's where it really gets to be fun, is when you make a game out of it. Because it is a game. You want to help them win, but you get to win at the same time. But the only way you get to win is you help them understand what your product is, what your service is, why they're going to benefit from it versus why I need to sell it. And that's where it really comes in with sales teams for sure. Then the other thing you can look at is eye angles. So the first one here, you can see if you go from the inside of the eye to the outside, do they angle up? Well, people whose eyes angle up want to hear about the upside of things. So what does that mean? They want to know about features, benefits. So when you start looking, features and benefits is what they want, why it's the best product that's out there. So you want to keep it positive. Features, benefits, you name it. Now, on the opposite side of that is there's going to be eyes that angle down. So when somebody's eyes angle down, like this gentleman, they're worried about the downside of things. So if you want to see that again, go from the inside of the eye to the outside. Imagine having a business card. We'll use my phone. Does it angle down? even, or up. So when it angles down, they're worried about the downsides. Have you thought about what about this? Have you thought about that? So I used to have very downward angled eyes. I was raised in a loving home where they said, okay, what's your plan? Now, what's your backup plan? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So it's just how they prepare. So they want to know, have you thought about things that could go wrong? That's why I was great at working the help desk or building things, because I knew how to troubleshoot it. Versus other salespeople knew what made us stand out in the industry, what was the best features. But what happened is, as I had to learn to stop focus on the break fix from my technical background and go into sales, my eye angles changed over time. So when you start looking at people, you just figure out, okay, do I start with the potential concerns or do I talk about the features and benefits? And then you're learning to speak their language. And this is where people usually get upset and go, oh, that's manipulation. No, it's a sign of respect. Because communication isn't just you should understand me, but that we should understand each other. So a good analogy of that is, when I was a kid, I used to travel to other countries and I thought they should all speak English. And if they didn't, I'd speak English louder, which is just forcing my agenda. Versus if I go and I try and learn, please, thank you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening in their language, it's an attempt to build communication between us instead of forcing them to learn my language. Last one is, if people's eyes go up and down, then they're listening to both the pros and cons. But what you always want to think about is, are you learning to speak other people's language? People are auditory, visual, kinesthetic. When you're looking at people, if they have larger ears and they have smaller eyes, those are auditory people. So what do you do with auditory people? You call them, you text them, you use sound words. Oh, I hear where you're coming from. That sounds like a great idea. I'm always a fan of sending a video because then people can listen to it. You're also getting the message directly from the source instead of what people are going on right here. If they have larger eyes, like all three of the here, and I'm gonna give you a cheat. The last one is Van Gogh. He didn't think ears were important. He cut one off. They're visual people. So when you're talking to visual people, you talk about things in visually. Oh, I see what you're saying. Hey, come take a look at this. And again, they're a little bit different. Auditory people, voice text, give them a call. Visual people, text them, email them. But I'm still a fan of video just because it captures so many different moments when you're talking to people. Then if this area right here is a little bit wide, that's called a kinesthetic hands-on learner. You want to use action words. Once we hit the ground running, give them something to hold, give them a product to demo, to play with. Some people, when they come in, hugs aren't really good in a lot of corporate settings, so you can do a double handshake if you feel comfortable with it. Some people, I love when I show this and talk about people like, I'd never fall for that crap. It happens every day. Just start watching when people shake hands with people. A lot of people do the double handshake. But kinesthetic hands-on learners use action words, talk about once we hit the ground running, let's get moving on this project. Again, send them things to hold and play with. Why is this more important than ever? Because rapport builds relationships. And relationships are how you get business. But this day and age with AI, it's also how you stay in business. And so more importantly, it really is going to be that if you don't do things that AI can't do, you won't be employed anymore. And last but not least, I do have a young daughter. That's not her, but this is what's going on with a lot of people. And look, I'm just as guilty of being on my phone as anybody else, but we've got to stop that narrative. And what that is, that this is more important than this is. This may connect us to the world, but it disconnects us from each other. We've all seen people out at dinner, just like you see here, where nobody's having a conversation. Again, I am guilty of it because a lot of my business is done online. I've got to respond to comments fast, and sometimes that's at my own detriment. But if you're not learning people skills, body language, you name it, statement analysis, micro expressions, negotiations, you're putting yourself out of a job, or you're going to be putting your business in bankruptcy, because it's only going to be people skills that will differentiate when everybody else is using AI. So where did I learn? A lot of what I learned from, look, nobody starts. This isn't something I came up with. We all have mentors. So Mac Fulfer, the gentleman right here, he taught me how to analyze facial features. He was the attorney I mentioned earlier who learned it for jury consulting. Janine Driver has taught me body language. I've got her books. I keep one right here. That is, You Say More Than You Think. I think everyone needs to pick up this book. That is, What Does Your Body Language Say About You? Then last one, Chris Voss. He didn't know he was my mentor, but that book changed my life. And I got to tell him, this is last year in January at Door to Door Con. We were both speaking there. This was in the green room. And I got to show him his book, which I do keep on my bookshelf as well. And I got to show him that all my notes and everything that are in there, because I do believe this is one of the better books that everyone needs to pick up. So with that being said, No, none of this was come up by me. I studied what other people did. Now, Mac was my direct one-on-one mentor. Janine and I became friends. And like I said, I learned from Chris Voss on YouTube, his book, and just devouring it over and over in time. So if you want to learn more about how to understand facial features, you can pick up the books. The flashcards are what really helped me, though. It's like when I was in school for a test. If I wanted to really study it, yeah, I had a textbook, but it was the flashcards that made a difference. And the reason why is I could take them out and just learn one thing at a time. Once I learned that one, move on to the next one. Of course, I do speaking events, online courses, you name it. Get in a room with people, though, and practice it is what really makes the difference. No matter which method you learn to take this, buy the course, come watch me talk, get one-on-one coaching. It's putting it into practice. So what did I do? I would take the book and I'd leave it out somewhere. And I would say, oh, yeah, I kind of think this guy's full of crap. Can I ask you questions? The reason why I started with I think he's full of crap is I wanted honest opinions from people. And I didn't trust necessarily what's in any book. You have to put things out to practice. And that's what it takes to do it. So if you don't know, or depending on where you're watching from, these are all the ways. You can find me. Basically, Settle Skills is everywhere. So you can scan the QR code. What that'll get you is the cheat sheet that you can take with you and go out and practice this thing. Because if you aren't figuring out how to build bonds and rapport with people, you can be replaced by AI. And that's just it. I mean, like I said, knowledge is still power, but it's a different knowledge. Because now with AI, we have not access to almost anything we need for information. But you still got to go to get on the Zoom with people. And you got to go from being in the Zoom to getting in the room with people. That's where relationships are really, truly made. So there's my email address. Feel free to reach out. I will stop sharing here, which I'm quite happy to do now because, like I said, this was a weird one for me. And let me move this up. And I will also take a look and see if we have any questions on Instagram because I wasn't able to see that one. Going back through the comments. Hey, Joe, I appreciate you always being here. All right, I don't really see any questions on it. So anyway, like I said, normally this is just Ed and I kind of talking back and forth. However, today it's just me. Ed's out hiking. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thought this time we always talk about what we do, but thought, why not give you just a short example of it? So thank you everybody for being here. Best way to support Ed and I is like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends. If you have questions or you want to be a guest on the show, let us know what your special skill or talent is. We're always looking for somebody for a Thursday. And what we want is we want to help other people at the same time. So anyway, thank you for being here. Ed would say thank you too if he was here, but we'll see you guys on Thursday. Bye, everybody.